Caribbean Newsline is brought to you by the Barbados Tourism Marketing Inc.
The Cayman Islands government ordered to establish a marriage equivalent for same-sex couples. Our top story in Caribbean Newsline for Friday, November 8th from the CMC News Center in Bridgetown. I'm Dawn Paris. Good evening. The Court of Appeal in the Cayman Islands has overturned a previous ruling that legalized same-sex marriage, saying that marriage equality went too far. But it ordered the government of the British Overseas Territory to establish immediately civil partnerships or some equivalent of marriage for same-sex couples. And it said if the government fails to do so, the United Kingdom should intervene. The Court of Appeal in its ruling, which was handed down on Thursday, said the Legislative Assembly had been doing all it could to avoid facing up to its legal obligations, but it did not set a deadline for the legislative changes to be implemented. Responding on Friday to the court's decision, Premier Alden McLaughlin said government is unlikely to deal with the issue of same-sex marriage until early 2020.
We have always said that it was critical that the country had the benefit of clarification on those very important constitutional issues. The Court of Appeal judgment does clarify that, and I believe this is a significant ruling. That said, Mr. Speaker, while I, and I suspect that all of us in this House, do appreciate the ruling, we should be mindful that it comes with a declaration by the Court that this legislature should act expeditiously in ensuring that same-sex couples have legal protection under a law that provides the, quote, functional equivalent to marriage, unquote. Mr. Speaker, I do expect that this Honourable House will indeed consider this matter expeditiously, but we cannot do so hastily. Given that we have before us a 2-year budget to get through, as well as a referendum, I do not see this Honourable House turning their attention to this issue before early next year.
McLaughlin said he was pleased the Court of Appeal had agreed with his government that the original ruling of Chief Justice Andrew Smellie created significant ambiguity surrounding the Constitution and Bill of Rights, as well as the interpretation of and ability of the court to amend laws. He added if the House did not deal with the matter, the decision would be made for the Cayman Islands, and that was not an option anyone wanted.
I do urge members to read and carefully consider the judgment and the declaration. It is clear to me that if this legislature does not provide the legal framework that provides the protections for same-sex couples in a form that is acceptable to all Caymanians, then undoubtedly we will end up with the UK levying upon us protections that suit them rather than us. I believe the responsible thing for this House to do is to face up to this issue and take its own decision. We have rightly complained that on occasion the UK has overreached by interfering in matters that should be decided by Caymanians. By the same token, we cannot abdicate responsibility for taking the hard decisions when they are staring us in the face.
Well, back in April, in a ruling on a case brought by same-sex couple Chantal Day and Vicky Boden-Bush, who were fighting for the right to marry, Chief Justice Smellie had ordered the government to amend its marriage laws to define marriage as the union of two people, not of a man and a woman. Government appealed the ruling in August, and in the Thursday ruling in that challenge, the Court of Appeal said the Chief Justice relied too much on decisions from other countries that established marriage equality, and that the European Court of Human Rights did not see marriage as a human right. Ghana's opposition leader Barrett Jagdeo is threatening to call out his supporters to resume protests if President David Granger does not dissolve Parliament soon ahead of the March 2020 elections. Jagdeo was speaking at his weekly press conference on Thursday. We get more in this News Source Guyana report.
The opposition leader said the dissolution of Parliament must take place soon.
He has to dissolve Parliament. He has to issue a proclamation. Let him delay that and we resume the protests, because that's part of the holding of elections or the dissolution of Parliament. And so I'm making it clear to him, if he thinks he's going to hang on there.
Mr. Jagdeo brushed aside the president's recent statement that he's keeping the parliament open right now, just in case there might be the need for emergency funding. Jagdeo said emergency funding could be accessed through the contingency fund, and the president ought to be aware of that.
But Parliament doesn't have to exist to have access to the contingency fund. And in any case, he can't pass a budget, so the 112 provisions would kick in next year.
President Granger has already issued a proclamation for the 2nd of March 2020 elections.
Staying in Guyana, a new political party with which President Granger was in discussions on possible collaboration has made it clear it will remain independent heading into the polls. Earlier this week, Granger said preliminary exploratory talks with leader of the Liberty and Justice Party, LJP, Lennox Schumann, had not moved forward since last month. And at a press conference on Thursday, Schumann made his party's position clear. The details from Newsroom's Nigel Collymore.
After the news broke of the party in talks with the governing APNU coalition, its leader Lennox Schumann had said that he was meeting all parties. But on Thursday, he confirmed that there are no plans to officially join forces with other parties leading up to the 2020 election.
I want to ensure that we are very clear on what it is we do. At the launch of this party in January of 2019, we said that we are open to communications with everyone. And we had set out to engage in dialogue with all parties. We had sent out formal notification to all parties to engage in a dialogue because we believe that is the only way to move Guyana forward. And as such, we have met with ANOG, we've met with FedUp, we've met with TCI, we've met with APNU, and we have not met with the PPP. But there are some other small players that we would have met with.
Schumann stated that the LJP constitution was set up to promote the establishment of an independent party that seeks to foster a balanced approach to nation building.
Last night we had a motion carried in line with Article 4.1 of the Liberty and Justice Party's constitution that states that we are not going to coalesce with any political party going into this election unless the national security or national interest of this country demands it. At this point, we are of the firm belief that the country is in need of balance.
The party leader made note of the fact that the LJP recognizes the strong following of both the APNU-AFC coalition and the People's Progressive Party, but stated that the LJP's strength rests in their ability to provide the balance necessary to take Guyana forward.
We recognize and respect that the APNU-AFC has a massive following, and we have to respect that they are going to look out for their followings or their party and people's interests. And we also have to respect and recognize that the People's Progressive Party also represent a very large mass, and they have a responsibility to their membership. And at this point, the Liberty and Justice Party represents what we call a balance in this country. And along those lines, we are going to be heading into the elections of 2020 as the Liberty and Justice Party, not as an appendage of any party, not in coalition with any other party.
Over in Trinidad and Tobago, a former chief of defense staff is urging government to put things in place to bring back Trinidadian children indoctrinated into ISIS and to reintegrate them into society. The call is coming from retired Major General Ralph Brown, who was the commanding officer of the regiment during the 1990 coup. TV6's Renetta Cutting has more.
While security fears are valid, retired Major General Ralph Brown believes they should be brought back home.
A lot of people may not agree with me. They may feel that these families took their kids away to join ISIS and to fight as ISIS fighters. But let's face it, some of the children, not all of them, but most of them, had no choice in the matter.
Brown is urging all state agencies to prepare for their return with the intent to rehabilitate.
So separating them from this rest of the society is a no-no. Stigmatizing them is also a no-no because that may go further to even further radicalize them. So the Children's Authority, the judges, even the magistrates, even the courts have a role to play.
Brown adds, however, balance must be struck between what is best for them and the state's security.
Constant monitoring is very important. Even after they have been reintegrated, I think it is important that they must be monitored. And I don't mean from monitored in the sense that they should be penalized, but they should be monitored to ensure that they maintain, they have been totally reintegrated and maintain their status.
Independent research from a UK professor, Dr. Simon Cott, says as of 2018, 42 children were taken by their parents from TNT to ISIS battlegrounds. In January, 2 young boys were returned to their mother after the Nightingale unit of the Ministry of National Security intervened on their behalf.
Still to come, calls for greater investment in collecting weather data. That story and more after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Regional Met officials have been highlighting the importance of a weather data collection. The issue was raised at a 3-day Caribbean symposium on operational hydrometeorology leadership, which ended Friday in Barbados. The island's acting director of Met Services, Sonia Nurse, said this is even more critical given the increasing concerns over climate change, and she called for government to invest more in that area.
Studies have shown that investing in hydrometeorological services can significantly benefit agricultural production, leading to improved food security and mitigation of several health hazards. The ability to accurately predict droughts and floods will also promote better use of our limited water resources. However, over the years, while there has been an increase in data collection through remote processes such as satellites and buoys, there has been a noticeable decrease in the number of land-based stations worldwide. This situation, if not arrested, will most likely have an impact on future verification of the various models which are used to predict climate change. Meteorological services are a critical part of the national infrastructure and should be prioritized as such. It is therefore important that governments continue to invest in automatic weather stations and their maintenance in order to mitigate future impacts from an ever-changing climate.
Barbadian talent on display at the National Independence Festival of Creative Arts, NIFCA. Dominica gears up for Carnival and some changes to PAN events in Trinidad and Tobago ahead of Carnival 2020. That's next in Newsline Entertainment. Here's Mary-Claire Williams.
It's Independence season in Barbados, and the National Cultural Foundation will host the second weekend of the semi-finals of the National Independence Festival of Creative Arts from November 8 to 10. Students and various cultural groups will have a chance to display their talents in several disciplines, including dance, speech and drama, among others. Still on a high from the 21st World Creole Music Festival, Dominica has switched its attention to Carnival. This week, the Dominica Festivals Commission launched Mass Dominic 2020, which will officially open on January 18. Events coordinator at the Dominica Festivals Committee, Marva Williams, announced a packed program of events.
Carnival Old Mass Festival on February 2nd, Princess Show on February 9th, the Mother's Queen Show on February 15th, the Miss Dominica Pageant on February 20th, on February 16th, that's the Miss Teen Dominica Pageant, the National Queen Pageant on February 20th, International Artist Night on February 21st, Calypso Monarch February 22nd, Kiddies Carnival February 23rd, Juve February 24th, Traditional Masquerade and Children Costume Band Parade on February 24th, T-shirt Band as well on February 24th, Adult Costume Band Parades on February 25th, Last Lap on February 25th, Tewe Vaval on February 26th.
Williams also highlighted the importance of Carnival to the tourism sector.
In 2019, visitor arrivals for the week leading up to Mass Dominic was 5,169. This showed a 120% increase from the previous year. DDA plans to continue marketing aggressively to the Dominican communities residing in the Caribbean, North America, UK, and Europe to visit home during the upcoming Carnival season, thus contributing to an increase in economic activity during that period.
It's also Carnival season in Trinidad and Tobago. There have been some changes in the Steel Pan events this year, including Pan in November and greater recognition of Single Pan. Minister of Culture, Leanne Gadsby-Dolly, has welcomed the changes.
You know, we can't get tied up in the usual and the normal, and there are always problems with that. So therefore, when we consider things that can be done and they seem reasonable, I think it's a good shot to give it a try. I think that's a good positive move for, again, the medium pan, because again, this crush and this, you know, everybody's fighting for their own supremacy, which I think is good. It brings that kind of competition that I think is important, and it also allows the band to feel that sense of importance, because you know they're looking for their space.
Preliminary judging has already begun and will continue in the East on Friday night and in South Central on the weekend. Mary-Claire Williams, Newsline Entertainment.
Ahead in sport, wins for Barbados Pride, TNT Red Force and Ghana Jaguars in their opening games of the Regional Super 50. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Brittany Dixon, and you're watching Finding Fit, the show I pair up one client with two trainers. Trainer number one.
Oh my gosh.
It's about fitness, comedy.
You know, I can do this all day, you know.
Drama.
In future, we can ovulate.
Inspirational stories, and so much more. You are gonna love it. You can catch Finding Fit prime time this fall on CaribVision.
Let me start with you, Mr. Wimstone. What would need to happen? You say you support this. What needs to be built first?
Well, cities are more than buildings, as has been said here. And unfortunately, we're not hearing the discourse about the other things. Public space, public parks, proper pedestrian-friendly streets, a general...
What's that?
It's streets with proper sidewalks.
Pissed off, woo, diamond dancing, yeah, they grip walk. Ain't no lame brain that run the game with the slick
talk. Cut you off like a electrical company.
Meaningful, your touch, not your love online. Give me something realistic.
I can move in a room full of vultures, boy. Yeah, my body different. I'm a shooter, but I snipe though.
When you think of what we went through with Hurricane Irma, you had to be able to recognize what are the things we need to do to cope with the aftermath. The psychological trauma, to me, is probably the most telling on a lot of people.
Preparedness is the key. So when people are prepared, when people have what their resources in terms of how they can cope with the disaster, they're better able to be able to return to their normal life. They're better able to make decisions that are informed for themselves and for their family and then for their community. Be ready. Look, listen, and link.
Action in the regional Super 50 continued on Thursday with Barbados Pride, TNT Red Force and Ghana Jaguars picking up wins in their opening encounters. Playing at Warner Park, Pride dismissed the Jamaica Scorpions by 75 runs despite a 4-wicket haul by Andrew McCarthy and O'Shane Thomas. Nicholas Curtin top scored with 55, while Kyle Mayers also added a half-century as Pride set a commanding total of 265 in their innings. But the Scorpions' runs chase was undermined by Barbadian off-spinner Ashley Nurse as they were bundled out on 190 in 39 overs. He picked up match figures of 4 for 26, while Shamar Holder bagged 3 for 37. Andrew McCarthy returned to the crease with a blistering 90, albeit to a losing effort. Over at the Queen's Park Oval in Port of Spain, centuries by experienced batsmen Darren Bravo and Jeremy Solozano condemned Windward Islands Volcanoes to a defeat by 8 wickets to host TNT Red Force. Chasing a competitive 238 for 8 set by the Windward Islands, Bravo was large and in charge with an unbeaten 115, while Solozano was equally entertaining with the bat with his unbeaten 102. As Red Force raced to the target with just about 8 overs to spare. Kaveem Hodge and Desron Maloney were the top scorers for the Windward Islands. And at the Brian Lara Cricket Academy in Tarouba, the Jaguars brushed off West Indies' emerging players, winning by 2 wickets. Needing 186 to win, the Jaguars got across the line after a brilliant knock by Kemal Savory. He scored an unbeaten 71, while Chris Barnwell added 36. Barbadian seamer Keon Harding was the pick of the bowlers, taking 4 for 35. The emerging players scored 185 for 8 when they took to the crease. Barbadian all-rounder Justin Graves top scored with 55, while Roland Cato chipped in with 37. Left-arm spinner Veresami Permal picked up 3 wickets for 34 runs, and Jamaican off-spinner Ramal Lewis had figures of 2 for 17. Well, after the match between Barbados Pride and Jamaica Scorpions, McCarthy, who took 4 wickets, then scored 90 for the Jamaicans, had mixed feelings about his side's performance.
I just want to dedicate this man a much to the whole coaching staff, you know what I mean, for just believing in me, and just have the confidence in me to just go there and just showcase my talent. For me, I'm very disappointed that my team lose the game. I think I should bring my team over the line, but hopefully next time I will deal with the situation much better.
And Nicholas Curtin, who had a knock of 55, praised the Bajan side for their effort. The left-hander, who made his debut for Barbados, says his team is prepared for a long haul in the regional tournament.
At the half we spoke a lot about the pacers, especially bowling the ball into the wicket, because it was a lot harder when the ball was full. From the pacer, it was easier to get through. But like for the spinners, the 2 spinners, we were saying that once you bowl the ball on a good length, it's not coming through that easy. So especially for the spinners would be the main threat, and especially Ashley Nurse executed really well today. We're trying to take it one game at a time. Obviously, this is only the first game, have 7 more games in this group. Then obviously we're looking to get across to Trinidad into the knockout stage, and obviously in the knockout stage you have to bring your game right through, but we're just taking it one step at a time and trying to make sure we qualify first, and then the second objective, make sure we qualify in the first position and obviously go across to Trinidad and then take it from there.
Meanwhile, the experienced Bravo hailed the performance of Red Force following their 8-wicket victory over Windward Islands Volcanoes. The veteran batsman speaking after the match was also pleased with teammate Jeremy Solizano's performance.
It's a good feeling. I really wanted to spend time out in the middle, and I'm happy I was able to do that. I'm happy for him, to be honest. He has been putting in a lot of hard work. I've been training extremely hard. Spent a lot of hours in the net hitting a lot of balls. Was really happy about the fact that we lost 2 early wickets and he was able to handle the pressure pretty well. I think our communication was pretty well as we all could see. So I'm really happy for him. I think he played to his strengths, and that was the most important thing.
Bravo, who carved out an unbeaten 115, as we mentioned earlier, has not made triple figures for the last 3 years. The Trinidadian hopes to continue his good form for the rest of the Regional Super 50 season.
It's a good feeling. I just want to continue helping my team as much as possible, being one of the most experienced guys in the dressing room, and try to guide them as much as possible. We don't always get the big innings, but as long as I contribute and help the youngsters, I'm pretty happy. Just to go there and continue, to enjoy the game as much as possible, and just spend time in the middle, and just to get my confidence going, and happy to get a pretty good start and hopefully continue from strength to strength.
And that's Time on Sport. We'll be right back.
Caribbean Newsline is brought to you by the Barbados Tourism Marketing Inc.
Let your spirit take to flight. Let your heart run free and wild. Find your soul in Dominica, the nature isle.
Beside me is Mrs. Pearl Duke, she's a usual patron of the Blue Food Festival in Bloody Bay. Now, Mrs. O, tell me, what keeps you coming back to the Blue Food Festival?
Oh, of course, to enjoy the ambience of this beautiful village, Bloody Bay. Also to enjoy the food that is being prepared, and also, be entertained by the guests we have here today.
And I see you're having an ice cream. Is this dashing ice cream? How's it tasting? Let our viewers know.
Again, the major developments of this day. The Cayman Islands Court of Appeal says a ruling granting marriage equality went too far, but orders government to establish a marriage equivalent for same-sex couples. And in sport, Barbados Pride, TNT Red Force and Ghana Jaguars pick up the wins in their opening games of the Regional Super 50. And that's Caribbean Newsline. For news and sport around the clock, subscribe to CanadaNews.com, and for more of our programming, log on to CaribVision.tv and check out our YouTube channel as well. We'll be back here again on Monday, but from all of us at CMC News, thank you so much for watching, and have yourselves a good night and a safe and blessed weekend.